of you are healers, many of you are authors, creatives, and you are looking to grow your business in whatever way possible, right? Maybe you started 2026 and you were like, this is going to be my year. I thought 2025 was going to be my year, but it turns out 2026 is going to be my year. And you had big, big, big goals for the year. And maybe some of you heard that phrase that like, take your annual income for last year and consider it to be possibly to be your monthly income in 2026. Very, very powerful manifestation language there, and I love it. But we do need some strategies behind that manifestation language because we don't want to get stuck in the how hole, meaning how is that possible for me to be able to do that? Am I going to actually grow my business? What are the things that I have to do in order to make sure that I get seen and heard in a bigger way? Some of you may not even be excited about getting seen. Some of you may have a little bit of nervousness around that. Some of you may be introverts or worried or concerned about getting on stages, feeling I'm not ready yet. I don't have all of my ducks in a row. I don't have everything organized yet. I'm not sure what I'm selling. I'm not sure which direction I'm going. And I want to just normalize that for you, because people that are even far, far, far along in their business still create new things and they think, I don't have this ready yet. I'm not sure I'm ready to launch yet. But we go ahead anyway and move forward and step in. The reason that we do that, and the reason that I would encourage you to do that as well, is because there are people out there right now who need what you have to offer, who are ready for your programs, your products, your services. And if you don't step up to help them with your magic, then somebody else with half your talent and twice your price is going to help that person. And that's not the way the world is supposed to work. We need to get help from the people who are here with hearts that are ready to serve. And I think that that is this audience. So I'm very excited today to be able to join you all on this summit and share with you 4 strategies that are speaking strategies that you can leverage if you're a coach or a healer to be able to grow your business in 2026 or really any year that we're in. So if you are ready to rumble, if you're ready to go, if you're excited, you're in for a treat. So we're going to talk about the 4 types of stages that you can get on and how to profit from each one, how you can grow your business by leveraging each of these 4 strategies, these 4 stages. So for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Kimberly Crow. I'm delighted to meet you today. I'm an international inspirational public speaker, and I've had the privilege of being on over 5,000 stages, including TEDx in Las Vegas. I've spoken on the Influencers Cruise. I've spoken on 26 countries, and I travel full time. So the opportunity to be able to speak on a virtual stage is fantastic. An in-person stage is incredible. But we'll talk to you about how you can create an opportunity to speak from your very own home on a virtual stage, to be able to get on a podcast, radio show, TV show, web summit, webinar, or maybe you're ready to get on a real live in-person stage. So wherever you are, you're in the right place today, because we're going to talk about how you can leverage them and what that means. Now, there's a lot of different types of stages out there. We mentioned a few of them just now, but beyond that, there are stages that are categories of stages, meaning what is it that you're doing from each stage and how are you going to profit from each stage? So I'm going to give a little bit of a breakdown of the 4 types that I break it into, and we're going to talk about how you can actually profit from each one of them. So the number 1 stage, the first stage I'm going to talk about, because it's for me the most exciting and the most profitable, is actually a speak to sell stage. A speak to sell stage. Speak to sell stages were made famous by often gentlemen, men, who would get up on a real live in-person stage, and they would teach for a while, and then they would lead you toward a program, product, or service. or a need of some kind. And then they may bring up a PowerPoint presentation. Stop me if this is familiar to you, right? They bring up a PowerPoint presentation and they talk about the program that they have. And the first slide was about how amazing this first part of the program was and how it was worth the price of admission in and of itself. And then the second slide came up and it was even more cool stuff. And then the third slide came up and the fourth slide, and the whole thing was worth $2 million. But if you bought it right now, emergency, buy it right now because it's like gonna go away. You have to buy it immediately. It's gonna be like $19.95 for you, right? And that type of speak to sell got sort of a bad reputation because it was sort of that hustle, go for the grab and sort of trick people into making a big decision very quickly by putting immediacy on it, et cetera, et cetera. And so that speak to sell stage sort of got a bad rap. It sort of got a reputation for being a pushy salespeople, but sort of from stage. Maybe slick comes to mind, right? And maybe that's not you. Maybe you're like, I don't want to do speak to sell where I have to do a PowerPoint presentation and talk people and pressure them into buying my stuff. I want to help people, right? I want to make sure that they get the programs, products, and services from me that they need. And of course, I'm in it to make a business. I'm in it for a business. I want to make money, but at the same time, I don't want a high pressure sales from stage kind of thing. So I have great news for you. It doesn't have to be that way. So speak to sell stages are not necessarily that. That's just what everybody thinks about when they think about a speak to sell stage. A speak to sell stage is a stage where you are leading people to what I call a natural next step. A natural next step. So a natural next step from a 3-day event where you've met this person and they've poured into you and they've given you all kinds of things, and then you've had some transformation, and now you're ready for their next program and you want to join their mastermind, which is a high-end mastermind. Awesome. The natural next step might be, yes, I'm in. I would like your $25,000 program, right? And that is very appropriate from a stage like that. But a stage that's like 10 minutes or 20 minutes or maybe an hour long, or maybe it's a half day or something like that, your offer might not be a $25,000 program, especially if you're speaking from a recorded podcast in advance, or maybe you're speaking on a summit or something like that, and you are probably not going to sell a $25,000 program to somebody who has met you only for the last 15 or 20 minutes. And so what I encourage you to do is actually just bring people to a natural next step. Now, what could that be? If you were on a podcast, the natural next step might be something simple like go to my website, or grab my LinkedIn profile, or send me an email or something like that. All of those might be appropriate natural next steps for people to do. Maybe it's grab my downloadable, go to giftfromkimberly.com or something like that. Something easy for people to remember from a podcast. And you want to have something that's appropriate for the medium as well. For example, on a podcast, you need something that people are going to remember later and go to later, that they can be like, aha, I know her. It's Kimberly. So giftfromkimberly.com would be a great thing to be able to give from a podcast. However, if you're in a Zoom room like we are right now as I'm recording this, when we're in a Zoom room, you have access to people that are live there with you, and you have an opportunity to connect with them in the chat. When you connect with people in the chat, you can have them interact with you, you can interact with them, and you can drop your call to action at the end in the chat, and it can be a link. So it doesn't have to be something pretty. It can be sort of gobbledygook, right? I did say that right. Gobbledygook. I think that's how you say that. If you know how to spell that, put it in the chat. Gobbledygook. I think that's how you pronounce that. So you can put all kinds of stuff into the chat so that people can read it and click on it and do something right then and there. From a podcast, you can't do that. A lot of podcasters will say, we will put your link in the show notes, and that's fine. That's wonderful. But out of 100 times that you've heard people say that, how many times have you gone to the show notes to dig in and find the link and click on it? Really, one or fewer times is really statistically average. But in a event like this, where we're on a Zoom room and we drop something in the chat, out of 100 people, you might get 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 people clicking on on your link during the chat. So you definitely want to have something that they can click on as opposed to something that they have to remember and go to later. If that makes sense. So speak to sell stage, you want them to have a natural next step. We talked a little bit about time frames. If you're on a 20-minute podcast, you only have so much time to really interact with people, and how much change can you make in their lives in that level of time? And it may not be enough for a major transition. But if you have them in a workshop or in a 1-day event or in a 3-day event, you have much more time for them to have that get to know you, build their know, like, and trust, and make a transformation with them. Now, I want to talk to you about something that was recently discovered because we are, with the advent of the internet, which has been around for some of you all of your life, but some of us not all of our life. The advent of the internet made us into much more perceptive buyers. We do a lot more research now before we make a buying decision. And buying decision is the key word here. So Google did some research, and I don't know if you know, but I pretty much think at one time Google knows everything about us. Now it's ChatGPT, but at one time Google knew a whole bunch of stuff about us because we were asking all our questions in Google, right? And they learned a lot about our buying behavior. And they came to the conclusion that there is a zero moment of truth, ZMOT, zero moment of truth, when somebody will make a buying decision. And when is that? What does it take for people to make a buying decision? Now, if you're old school like me, you may have heard that in the sales world, it takes about 11 different touches for somebody, 8 to 12 touches for somebody to make a buying decision. Like you have to call them a bunch of times, or you have to send them emails or whatever it is. And it takes 8 to 12 different touches before somebody is confident enough to make a buying decision. Well, that's part of it, the different touches, the different connections you make. But in the research, Google found that there's other statistics as well. And they found that the key numbers are 7, 4, 11. So the 11 is an average of 11 different touches. So that average of 8 to 12 was right in there. It was pretty accurate. 8 to 12 touches before somebody will make that buying decision and commit to you. The other numbers, however, are new. The other numbers are 7 and 4. And the 7 represents that it takes an average of 7 hours of research before somebody will make a buying decision. Now, this is an average, statistically speaking, an average. Now, if you think in terms of buying your last car, did you just walk onto the lot and write them a check and have them give you the first one that was on the lot? Probably not. Probably you did a little bit of research first. Maybe you did some test drives. Maybe you went in and shopped a bunch of different brands. Maybe you saw something on a commercial, or maybe you just started shopping when you were driving along the freeway and you thought, that's a nice looking car. I wonder if that would be my next car. Or maybe you had a friend who had a car that you were driving in and you thought, this is really nice. Or maybe it wasn't so nice and you were like, maybe I'm not getting that car. And you did some research and analysis of what you really wanted. And with the internet now, we can have an opportunity to do a lot more deep research. And we have these little things, phones, right? And so we might add an app to our phone that gives us an analysis on different cars or things like that. So if you're thinking in those terms, like what would it take for you to make a $25,000 decision, assuming a car is 25,000, maybe used? What would it take for you to do that? There's a lot of research that you would do in order to do that. So think in terms of your buyer feeling the same way. Before they're going to make a buying decision, they need to do a little research. They need to have a lot of time with you. They need to have information about you. So 7 hours of research is the average. And then the middle number is 4. And it turns out we need to find the thing that we want to buy in an average of 4 different locations. 4 different locations. So what does that mean? If you have a really great LinkedIn page, awesome. But if you don't also have a website, or you don't also have other places people can find you, or they can't find references on you, or they can't find you if you're a donut shop, they can't find you on Google Maps, or they can't find you in Yelp, or whatever it is that they use to find you, then they may not build their know, like, and trust. They might not be able to make that buying decision because they haven't found you in a variety of different locations. But when you start showing up everywhere, now people are going to build their know, like, and trust. They know you're not a fly-by-night company who's just trying to sell them something quick and then disappear. So those numbers again are 7, 4, 11. 7 hours of research, an average of 4 different locations and an average of 11 different touches. Now, some of you are thinking, well, man, the last time I bought my car, I made the decision a lot faster than that. And some of you are thinking, oh man, it took me way longer than 7 hours before I bought my car. And chances are that if you take a really short time to be able to buy something, then you're probably married to or partnered with somebody who takes a really long time to make a buying decision. And vice versa, right? So if you're the one who takes forever, then your spouse is always making those snap decisions, right? Without doing any research. So it's an average, ladies and gentlemen. That's my point. It is not an exact science, but there is science behind it. So when you're ready to make your offer of a $25,000 coaching program or whatever it is, then keep in mind, how much time have they been able to spend with you? Now, I'm going to come back to this speak to sell stage, but we got 3 other possibilities and then a secret 5th possibility that I'm going to talk to you about if we have time. All right. So, stage number 2, or the opportunity to profit from another strategy, is the paid speaking gig, right? A paid speaking opportunity. So if you go and speak somewhere and get paid to do it, that is a really profitable day, right? And most people think in terms of keynotes. My keynote rate right now is 12,500. Many beginner speakers even start out at $5,000 to do a keynote talk, even at a beginner level. So, and then there are people who charge millions, and there's a wide range. But it is there's a lot of fish in that pool. All right. So, keynote speaking, there's a lot of people who are going after that brass ring of speaking. But I have great news for you. Just like speak to sell, it didn't have to be that one thing that you think of when you think of speak to sell. The paid speaking gig does not just have to be keynotes. There are a variety of ways to get paid to speak. As a matter of fact, a while back, I taught a class on 36 ways to get paid from public speaking. But by the time I taught the class, we had over 50 ways to get paid from public speaking. And the cool thing is, you all have probably done some of them already. Believe it or not, you probably have already been paid to speak. Some of you have had keynotes. Some of you have been paid to speak at corporate. Maybe you got a little gig where somebody invited you to come in and speak at a corporation or at an association, or maybe at a college or university. And there are a variety of different places where you can get paid as a speaker to come in and deliver a talk. But there's all kinds of other little nuanced ways as well. I work with a dear friend, his name is Frank King, and he was a stand-up comedian. And not only did he get paid to do stand-up, and he actually got paid to write jokes for Jay Leno. He was on Jay Leno's team. He also got paid to speak on cruise ships, to do bits on cruise ships, but then also to do paid speaking gigs on cruise ships. How cool is that? Would you like to get paid to be able to speak on a cruise ship? Put a 1 in the chat if you would love to speak on a cruise ship and get paid to do it. Lots of opportunities there. There are many more that you may not even be thinking of even now. Let me ask you this. Have you ever taught a class and charged admission to come to the class? For example, maybe you taught a class on how to build a website, or maybe you taught a class on new wellness and health resources, or maybe you taught a class on how to be able to teach people to do backflips. I don't know, maybe you were a trainer and you were able to do like training for people to do backflips. Maybe you were a gymnastics teacher and you got paid for that. There are a lot of ways that you can get paid just for sharing your knowledge with an audience. So if you are what do they call this? A personal trainer, then technically you were a paid speaker, because you weren't, maybe you were demoing the exercises, but you were really teaching people with words how to do the exercises, right? So you were a paid speaker for that. I'll give you some examples of paid speaking gigs that I've had that fall outside of keynoting that were a lot of fun. I was a paid actress. I have taught classes. I was a trainer on something called total quality management way back in the day, which was supposed to be the final quality thing that ever existed, but totally wasn't. But I trained on that at corporate. I also was a paid actress. I've done voiceover narration. I've done the audiobook production. And I have done murder mystery dinner theater troupe products where we were going to like a big restaurant and there was a dinner party there and we were the actors and I was like Bonnie and Clyde, like Bonnie and Clyde, and I had a role to play and I would go up and talk to people in that character and then we were solving a mystery along the way. Super fun. Did not pay really well. Did not pay really well, ladies and gentlemen, but it was in fact a paid speaking gig because you're paid to speak. And the last one I'll share with you is something that's unique to me, but you might have something unique to you as well. My children all played equestrian polo, both, not all. There's only two of them. My kids played equestrian polo, like, like polo, team polo. And I played one time, broke my wrist, and never played again. And so it's not really that dangerous a sport. It just was a phenomenon that happened. But when I thought I was going to play with them and it was going to be like a family sport, and it ended up being that they played and they went all the way through interscholastic and in fact intercollegiate and played polo at college level. And while I was watching them play, I learned a lot of the rules, and I knew the owner really well of the team. And I said, "Hey, I know that you announce the tournaments. I would like to learn how to do that." And he said, "I hate announcing the tournaments. You sit down, you start announcing them right now, and I'll tell you what to say." And I learned how to announce polo tournaments. Well, for a very long time, it was just fun because I was the parent who knew about it, and I would be funny and interesting, and I would tell them stuff that they didn't know about why the kids were like had so many reins in their hand and why the tails were tied up a certain way. And I knew stuff, right? And so I would vamp on the mic while people were just waiting for the checkers to begin. They're called checkers. And so I had a really good time doing it. And it was free because it was volunteer. I was just a parent having a goofy time and it was great. But I had a lot of people come up to me and say, "You're really good at this. I think, we learned a lot because you really helped us understand even what this game was about. The kids know, but we barely even know the rules." And so eventually I actually had somebody whose parent was a polo player for real, professional polo player. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to talk to our league about maybe having you come." And a gentleman came and he said, "Hey, you're a fantastic." They heard me announce at a tournament. He said, "You're fantastic. We would love to hire you to be a stand-in for our people when they are out of town because a lot of the announcers travel with the team. And then they have local tournaments at the professional games." And so I went and I announced professional teams and local teams and had a great time doing that. Super fun way to monetize from something that you love doing, right? So if you loved number one, speak to sell, put a one in the chat. If you loved number two and you thought of a new way to speak and get paid to speak as a paid speaking gig, put a two in the chat and let me know that you found a new way to speak and get paid to do it. All right. We got to get to stage number three, and I promise you we would get back to the selling spot or the speak to sell and give you some more information about that one because that's probably the one that you're going to monetize the most off if you are a coach or a healer because you want to bring people into your program, product, or service. And while paid speaking gigs might be a fun way to bring in some extra money, it may not be your main source of income. It may not be. It may be. Stage number three, we'll talk about next. Stage number three is an authority stage. An authority stage. And a lot of people think in terms of TEDx when they think of an authority stage. An authority stage is a powerful stage that gives you authority and credibility just by the very being of on it. I know that that's not proper English, but being on it actually gives you authority to be able to be on that stage. TEDx, if you have a TEDx, you can put that in your bio. I was on TEDx. I was on TEDx in Las Vegas. Totally awesome opportunity for me to be able to leverage that, right? So getting on authority stages is really powerful, but I got good news for this one as well. Even though many of you may have TEDx on your bucket list, and I was very proud to be able to give a TEDx, TEDx may not be the only authority stage you're ever on. There are lots of them out there. As a matter of fact, this stage right here is an authority stage because when I was brought on, they were introducing and recommending that people come to this particular. and they were endorsing me and brought me on as an expert in speaking about monetizing from stages, which I am, but having other people introduce me as that is a really powerful way to gain authority and credibility. So you can do it as a summit, you can do it as a podcast, you can do it a variety of ways, including local TV channels, local TV shows, things like that. If you're on that, you can say, oh, I was on the ABC, local ABC channel or whatever it is, and have an opportunity to be able to leverage that. Now, the way to profit from this one is not that somebody's going to buy your stuff necessarily, although they may. It may not be that you're getting a check in the mail for speaking on a stage. The way you need to profit from this one is to make sure that everyone knows about it, right? This is where you tell everyone, hey, I'm super excited. I was featured on this TV show. I was featured on TEDx. The TEDx just got released. I was selected to be one of the panelists on this big interview panel, whatever it was, whenever you're speaking on somebody else's stage, then letting people know about that is where you get the authority. So that is how you cash in on that. Now, for those of you who don't have it or who have a TEDx and don't have it anywhere on your website, you don't have it anywhere that anybody knows about it. For the first year after my TEDx, I had it in my signature line at the bottom. Like people could watch it because I wanted people to know I was a TEDx speaker. Now it's in all of my bios and it's in my website and it's in a variety of places that you can find it. And when I get introduced, most people will pull that out of the introduction and say, she was on a TEDx in Las Vegas. And it is an authority piece. So you do want to leverage that, though. If nobody knows about it, then the authority doesn't mean anything, right? Maybe you were on Oprah, and that's great. But if nobody watched the show and you never talked about it afterwards, then it didn't do you much good, right? So you definitely want to be sure that you get the word out everywhere, and you have to call attention to it. I'll give you one more example, which might get your wheels turning on other stages that were authority stages that you were on that you can start leveraging. Many a year ago, I was on a stage. I'd been nominated to be on the Women Who Mean Business stage. I was nominated and I had 19 letters of recommendation sent in for me. It was a very big honor, but it was local to the San Diego market. At the time, I was working in corporate and I had a large territory in San Diego. And I was very proud to be nominated for that. I went and received that opportunity. And then at the end, my corporation that I was working for at the time mailed letters out to our local San Diego customers and prospects saying, we're very proud of Kimberly. She's just been nominated for this prestigious award, and we're so proud of her. And with that, I had the opportunity to go into my clients the next time, and instead of saying, hi, do you have any orders for me, or do you need anything, or whatever, they were like, hey, I heard that you were nominated for this amazing award. Now, the award in San Diego, it was multi-leveled. You actually had to, not a multi-level marketing. It was multi-leveled. You had to have something prestigious. You had to be nominated and recommended in a variety of different ways. You had to have a business achievement of some level. You had to have a community achievement of some level, and you had to have a philanthropic achievement at some level. And since I had all of those, they recognized that as an authority piece. And then I had something else to talk with them about when I went into their offices. So I don't know if that helped get you thinking about maybe some of the things that you've been awarded to. Maybe you've just sort of dismissed them like that happened years ago, but it's not important anymore. Of course it is. Is that something that you can revise? Some of you have launched a book, and that's an authority stage, as it were, right? You have an opportunity to do that. If you were highlighted in a magazine, I recently was highlighted in a magazine. I was on the cover of the magazine, and I sent it out to a bunch of my friends, and I was like, look, I'm officially a cover girl. How awesome is that? First time in my life I was a cover girl. I don't know. Super fun. So the third type of stage is an authority stage. And the way to profit from that one, the way to strategize from that one, the way to leverage that one is to get the word out everywhere. All right. So that's stage number 3. All right. Let's move on to stage number 4. You guys ready for stage number 4? If you liked stage number 3, put a 3 in the chat so that I know you're with me and you're like, yes, stage number 3 is my stage. Fantastic. All right, great. Stage number 4 may surprise you. Stage number 4 is one that almost nobody thinks about when they're speaking, especially after they get speaking quite regularly. Stage number 4 is a rehearsal stage, a practice stage, a practice stage. When I was introduced as somebody who has over 5,000 stages. I have spoken on over 5,000 stages. It was a privilege and an honor to speak on every one. But my best talk ever is my next talk, because I can always improve. I can always get better. I can always learn something from the last talk that can help me deliver the next talk just a little bit differently, just a little bit more aligned to me, just a little bit more effective for the audience. So your practice stages are super important. You need to be able to leverage those to be able to get really good as a speaker. But how can you profit from them? How can you profit from it if it's just practice, right? You don't want to deliver your really great best speech ever only on a practice stage, right? Well, practice stages have one huge benefit that a lot of other stages don't. Practice stages afford you feedback. Feedback. Feedback is actually the profit from a rehearsal stage. You need to be able to get feedback from your audience when you are on a rehearsal stage. Now, that feedback can come in a variety of ways. That feedback might be direct, like, hey, Kimberly, when you spoke, sometimes you raised your eyes and the lights shined and we couldn't see your eyeballs, right? Like that's direct feedback, right? But there are other types of feedback as well. Somebody might put a one in the chat, or they might put a question in the chat. Or if you're on an interview, somebody might ask, the interviewer is going to ask you questions along the way to be sure that they know what you're talking about. All of that is feedback, right? If they're nodding along or they seem to be understanding, you know that they're with you, that you know that they're playing with you. And then you have that feedback to know how you're doing and what you might be able to do differently. I'll give you an example of one time that's a total failure on my part that might get you thinking to some of the rehearsal stages that you might have had in the past. This was on a real stage. This was on a summit that I was on, and I was teaching about this very topic. And somebody at the end we had a Q&A section, and they raised their hands, and somebody came on and they said, hey, Kimberly, I'm not ready to speak yet. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. Because all of you all are ready to speak, in my opinion. We just need to get you out there and get you some practice. But she said, I'm not ready to speak yet. And she said, the reason I'm not ready to speak yet is because I don't have a one sheet. And I looked at her and I said, a one sheet, oh my gosh, don't let that hold you back. What do you speak about? And then I said, and encouraged her, and I was like, you definitely need to get on stages. You don't need a one sheet. I've spoken on over, this is true, I spoke on over 5,000 stages and never had a one sheet. Never. You don't need a one sheet to book speaking gigs. Not necessary at all. You can get on tons of stages without a one sheet. So don't let that hold you back. So I explained that to her and she was like, oh, thank you very much. And then she left, and I did not made a cardinal mistake. I did not look at the chat. I didn't look at the chat at all. People were putting things in the chat. I just assumed they were commenting, blah, blah, blah. And I did save the chat at the very end. Here's a tip: save the chat at the end of all of your talks, right? Because you never know what gold is in there. So at the end of the chat, at the end of the talk, I saved my chat and then I went back to it. And in the chat, right when I was talking about the one sheet, people put in the chat, what's a one sheet? I don't know what a one sheet is. Do you know what a one sheet is? Where can I get a one sheet? How do I get a one sheet? What do I need for my one sheet? What goes on a one sheet? All kinds of questions about a one sheet because people didn't know what it was. And had I read that question, I would have known to say, but since I saved the chat and learned that lesson and got my feedback from the chat, I now teach whenever I say one sheet, like I just did now, that I have to teach what a one sheet is. So for those of you who are curious what a one sheet is, it is basically a speaker resume. It was something that was one sheet of paper that you would hand a speaker booker at a gig or something like that, or you would mail it to them. And it was basically a resume that had your image on it, and it had your name and your contact information along with your speaker bio, and it had your talk titles and the learning points from your talk. It also maybe had some testimonials and recommendations, and of course your contact information. So if you are wanting to create a one sheet, that's kind of what it is, but I am here to tell you, you don't need a one sheet to get on stages. All right. Okay. I hope that was full circle there. All right. So you can always learn something for whenever you are on a stage. Now, interesting thing is that every stage can be a rehearsal stage. We wouldn't really want your TEDx to be the first time that you rehearse that talk. Your TEDx definitely needs to be rehearsed out beforehand. You need some practice of that beforehand. But there are lots of stages that can teach you lessons along the way. So don't be afraid to get feedback, whether it is from the person who's the host of the event or whether it is the person who is in the audience. You can get feedback from a variety of different resources. You can also have a friend in the room, phone a friend, if you will. You can have a friend in the room and say, hey, this time I'm working on my call to action, or this time I'm working on my structure, or this time I'm working on this particular thing. Can you give me feedback on that and anything else I might have missed? And they might say, oh, yeah, but you were walking too much, or you were a little fidgety, or whatever their feedback is. And then they can give you feedback on the one thing that you're working on. All right. Don't get too caught up in the ums and the ahs. Don't worry about it so much. I know a lot of people freak out about that. Toastmasters got very famous for counting your ahs and your ums and your so's. And while they are filler words and can be very distracting, if you are using them in very light moderation, you should not beat yourself up about it. One of my favorite ways to start a talk is with the word so. So here we are, blah, 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 right? Which is a filler word, but it is something that is for me a little bit folksy and a little bit fun. So if you are struggling with that, don't worry so much about it. Don't pick on yourself too much with those pieces. Just figure out if you're getting connection with the audience, if your message is landing, if you're having transformation in the audience, they're doing what you want them to do, and they are moving forward with your call to action at the end. All right. So stage number 4 is a rehearsal stage, a practice stage, and it gives you an opportunity to be able to learn what the audience wants and learn what you need to do better next time. Now, what's a great practice stage? I will tell you that my favorite practice stages are actually podcasts. So if you've never been on a stage before, it's a great place to start and it's a great place to practice because you are just basically on Zoom having a little conversation with one other very nice person who's asking you some questions. So podcasts are a great way to refine what you want to speak about, how you want to deliver it, and figure out what questions people have because the podcaster is going to ask follow-up questions if they don't understand something like, hey, tell me what a one sheet is, right? Awesome. All right. So those are the 4 speaking strategies to leverage that you can grow your business from. So all of those different strategies I employ quite regularly on a monthly basis, if not a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. Some days I actually have 4 speaking gigs in a single day. If they're virtual, that's no problem at all. They just need to be spread out a little bit so I can be sure to put new fresh lipstick on. That's pretty much it. And then we want to be sure that we give each audience its own special flavor and its own special feel and its own special attention. That said, there are many opportunities to be able to get on stages, and I recommend getting on 2 stages a week. 2 stages a week will give you 100 stages a year. If every stage there had an average of 25 people at it, that would be 2,500 people that you would be able to change their lives and pour into them and give them a little bit more information about you. Very powerful opportunity there. Even if they only had 25 people in the audience, 2,500 people, 2,500 people is a lot to be able to change lives of in a single year. So I hope for you that you are moving forward with enacting many stages, whatever variety you choose, whether they're rehearsal stages, practice stages, or any of the stages. Now, I did say that there was a secret 5th stage, and I also said that we were going to dig in a little bit more about the speak to sell because that is the number 1 stage. I highly recommend that you engage as quickly as possible if you are a coach or an author or a healer or a creative or any sort of business owner, because getting your face out there in front of them is so powerful. But I do want to tell you about that secret 5th stage before we move on. So we talked about stage number 1, and it was the speak to sell stage. We talked, and then the way to profit from that one is to make sure you have a call to action that's appropriate, that's a natural next step, right? That they can take a natural next step to do something with you. Stage number two is a paid speaking gig. Your paid speaking gig is going to pay you for the opportunity to be able to get in front of them. And there's a variety of different ways to be able to get paid to speak. And the way to cash in on that one is to charge for the opportunity to hear your message. Stage number three is an authority stage. An authority stage like TEDx, or it could be a variety of other stages. And the way to profit from that one is to get the word out everywhere so everybody knows you were on that authority stage and they can give you accolades and they can understand that you are not necessarily a power to be reckoned with, but that you do have credibility and authority out there in the world. And stage number four is a rehearsal stage, a practice stage, a stage that can give you feedback. Now, I do want to stick in that your bathroom mirror or rehearsing in front of your pets, those are not good feedback stages because they cannot give you the feedback that you need. So they're not appropriate rehearsal stages. So stop rehearsing in front of your bathroom mirror and start going on Facebook Live and seeing what the comments are afterwards. See what people are here to say. All right, so those are the four stages: speak to sell, paid speaking, authority stage, and rehearsal stage. But there's a secret fifth stage in there, and it's sort of any of the four stages that you want. It's your own stage, your own stage. When you create your own stage, you can create it as any of the four or any combination of the four that you like. You can make it a rehearsal stage. Maybe you just go weekly on Facebook Live and just record something that you have, like your tip for the day, or that you go every Monday at 1, or Tuesdays at 2, or Thursdays at 3, or Fridays at 5, or Thursdays at 6, or whatever it is. And you just go regularly on an ongoing basis. As soon as you have a regular basis, a system that you're going to show up every week, then you have what we call a show. Now that you have the show and it's a rehearsal show, you can turn, if you go on Zoom, you can actually record the episodes and later turn it into a podcast. Later, you might bring on guest experts. And now, what have you done? You've turned your rehearsal stage into an authority stage, right? You go to your friends and say, hey, I'm doing this thing Wednesdays at 1, and I would love for you to be an expert on it. I'd love for you to come and share your knowledge with my audience. So come and share and be on my next Wednesdays at 1. And you can invite people to come on and be your guest during your show. So that helps you create content, but it also helps you build relationships. And maybe they make an offer, and maybe they make sales down the road and you become an affiliate for them. Lots of amazing things can happen from just creating an authority stage. Beyond that, you could make it a paid speaking gig. How would you do that? You would pay for the privilege of people listening to your weekly show, or they would pay for the privilege of people. You would charge people for the privilege of listening to your weekly show. So the way you would do that, maybe you put it inside a Facebook group, or maybe you have a private YouTube channel that they only get access to if they are a member of that, if they're a member of your mastermind. A lot of people lock it down with Vimeo instead of Facebook so that they're only there. Or maybe you have the replays available. I use something called ThriveCart, and in ThriveCart, we have a formula called Learn. It's not a formula, it's a system called Learn, where all of my members, once they become a member, and as long as they are a member, they get access to the backstage vault where they have all of these materials that teach them how to grow their business as an entrepreneur, a speaker, a coach, and be able to grow their business along the way. So you can charge for the privilege of them being able to watch that content. Now, that is a paid speaking gig, right? Because you're getting paid for them to be able to get your knowledge from that opportunity. All right, but how can it be speak to sell? Well, naturally enough, you can make an offer to a natural next step from any stage that you've created. So on your Wednesdays at 1, perhaps at the end, you say, hey, come to my event, or go to my speaker page, or check me out on LinkedIn, or go to my website, or grab my downloadable, or get gift from Kimberly.com. Whatever you're doing, you're inviting them to take that next natural step with you. And that becomes fun and engaging and an opportunity for you to build your community. opportunity. So whatever stage you're creating, consider it an opportunity to be any or all of the 4 types of stages. And when you take that step forward, you don't have to launch it as a podcast first. You don't have to take that big step. You don't have to create a summit like this amazing summit that we're on right now. You don't have to do all of that right away. The first step you do, maybe that's down the road for you. But if you decide that you're going to create a stage, any stage will do, even Facebook Live. Maybe you do a LinkedIn Live. Maybe you do a local meetup in your area and say, hey, we're going to meet Wednesdays at 1 at the local Starbucks, and we're going to grab a table and I'm going to do coaching or tips or whatever it is for a little bit. Come join me. And then during the event, you say, hey, I'm Kimberly Crow and I have this program and I'm interested in meeting new people like yourselves. And I'm here to coach. But if you'd like to do business with me, you're welcome to grab my business card or meet me in the back of the room afterward or come next week, whatever your call to action is, right? So it can be a variety of things. You don't have to overthink it, but you do want to do that. All right, I want you to put a 5 in the chat if you're interested. And this is, you got to be brave. You got to be brave with me. Put a 5 in the chat if you're interested in creating your own stage, even a local meetup or something like maybe it's at your church that afterwards you're going to be able to help people with whatever it is that you do. If you're into health and wellness, you can be like, you know what, I'm going to teach yoga in the chapel or in the front room or in the networking room or whatever it is, and you can be able to do something for your church members, and then they say, gosh, I love you, where do you teach yoga, or what do you do? And then you can leverage that as well. So a stage or an opportunity to be able to speak to people is a really powerful way to do that. So if you're ready to create your own stage, if you're ready to get in front of new people who need your programs, products, or services, please put a 5 in the chat, and make your little commitment, your micro commitment today to be able to grow your own stage. All right, fantastic. If you have done that, give yourself a pat on the back. Very nicely done. It can be a little intimidating to be able to think of all the different ways that you can do it and where should you start. Again, if you're just starting out, I highly recommend being able to go on podcasts. If you're looking for podcasts, we have tons of resources for you. I'm going to give you a gift at the end where you can connect with me and I can get you all kinds of resources. The gift at the end is actually going to teach you how to engage your audience. It's specifically designed for Zoom rooms or for podcasts. So if you are looking to get on those and you want your virtual audience to take action at the end of your talk, there are 10 expert secrets for you to be able to do that. And that is my gift to you that I'll give you at the end if you stay with me. And then we have a really incredible opportunity for you as well to grow your business as a speaker. With it's called the Ready to Rise Speaker Kit, and it's got everything you need to amplify your speaking no matter what level you're at. If you are just starting out or if you're nervous about speaking, there's plenty of guidance and help for you in there. And if you've got your act together and you're on stages and you're doing 2 a week, no problem at all, there's guidance for you there as well. However you need to up your game at your speaker level, the Ready to Rise Kit is going to be fantastic for you. The value of the Ready to Rise kit, I think, is $2,500, but we have a really good deal for you. So stay tuned. We're going to put that link in the chat in a little bit. Before I do that, I said that I would talk to you a little bit more about Speak to Sell, and I want to tell you a quick story. Remember, I told you the 7-4-11 principle, right? 7 hours of research, 4 different locations, and 11 different touches. That may have felt a little overwhelming to you, right? You may be like, oh my gosh, I'm only on Facebook. I don't have an Instagram and a Pinterest and a Twitter or X or whatever it is. Well, I got to tell you, I don't even know how to spell Instagram, right? I'm not all those places. But I am on a variety of stages. And when I get on a lot of podcasts, if you go out and Google my name, you're going to find about 8 pages of scroll of me before you find anybody else because I've been on so many podcasts. And right now, AI is going out to grab that information to be able to learn more about who you are and how you're showing up in the world. So the more content you have out there, the more podcasts that you're on, the more talks that you give, the more that's public information, the more that AI is going to learn about you to find out about how they can recommend you to other people. And that's where this world is going, ladies and gentlemen. So you definitely want to get out there, make sure that you're getting on stages and making the most of your speaking opportunities, because AI, it's going to grab it. It's going to find out about you through your speaking opportunities. Okay. I want to tell you a story. Before COVID, do you all remember COVID? Way back in 2020, way back in 2020, I was on a cruise ship, January of 2020. Cruise ships is where they all started, isn't it? Cruise ships is where it all came apart. Well, I was not on that cruise ship, but I was on a cruise ship in January, before it all broke in March, I believe. And I was with a big group of humans. And of course, we all got colds afterwards, but just not that cold. And in that big group of humans, I met a new person, a new friend of mine, and his name was Mike. And he said, hello, nice to meet you. Where are you from? And I said, hi, Kimberly, I'm from San Diego. Where are you from? And he said, I'm Mike. I travel full time. And I said, oh, interesting. And then I was like, wait, what? What do you do? You travel full time? And he's like, yes, I travel full time. And I was really interested. I was like, how do you travel full time? What's that like? So I started talking to him, and we got to be friends. And after the cruise, we sort of stayed in touch. And he got to know a little bit about who I was and what I was trying to do and blah, blah, blah. And one day he texted me and he said, do you know anything about Brendan Burchard? Brendan Burchard. Now, some of you may know that name. I did not. I had no idea who that was. I was like, no, is he going to be a customer of mine? Ha ha ha, for those of you who know Brendan Burchard is. Um, Brendan Burchard is a very famous speaker, and he teaches on personal development. Really cool human being. It's sort of like, for those of you who have heard the name Tony Robbins, sort of like that. But he is the next generation, and he's totally awesome. Anyway, so I'd never heard of him, and I was like, no, I don't know who he is. And he said, you should go to one of their events. You do events. You should go to one of their events. They do a really good job. And I was like, all right, I'm interested in events. So nothing happened, because then March happened and COVID, and no events happened for a really long time. And about 2 years later, Mike called me up again and he said, hey, Brendan's doing a new event. You should go. And I was like, oh, where is it? He said, Austin. I said, okay, Austin, fantastic. I have friends in Austin. I can go to Austin. Sounds like a great idea. So I go to Austin, and I go to his website, click the link, go to the website, buy a ticket. And I'm looking at the website, and it's really, really awesome. Like, it's well put together. It's professional. It's great. So I click the link, buy the ticket, whatever. And then I get the confirmation email. And then a day later, I get another email like, hey, we're super glad you're joining us. Here's information on the location. Here's information on local hotels. Here's information on the nearest Starbucks. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like, thinking of like that's pretty cool that they're thinking of all that stuff. And then they send something else like, hey, here's an article that Brendan wrote if you want to know a little bit more about what he's going to be speaking about. And then they said like a bunch of different stuff, right? And then they sent in the mail some stuff for me to take with me, or for I don't know, I think it was a journal and things like that. So then I go to the event, and I walk in, and I do events. So I'm looking to see like how they're putting together, what the lanyards look like, what the name tags. I'm a nerd that way. So I go and I'm looking at all this different stuff, and having a great time. And I go in, I sit down. I don't know Brendan by this time. I mean, I know his picture, but I know nothing about him. I don't even think I've heard his voice yet. So I go in and I sit down, and the MC comes on. He talks about how great Brendan is and gets the crowd riled up. And I'm like, good job. Great job doing that. And then Brendan comes out and he's clapping. He's doing his thing. For those of you who know, he's like got a very weird walk on. And he's clapping and dancing and doing his thing. And then he starts teaching, right? And he starts welcoming the audience, and he's like high energy, and he's great. I'm loving it right away. Like, I'm like, oh, he's my kind of guy, right? So he teaches, and he's giving great information. We take out our journals, and we're writing notes like crazy. We're getting hand cramps. Then we do breakouts with the groups there and do a little pair and share with a group of 4 other humans. And they're like, have you ever seen Brendan before? Isn't he great? Blah, blah, blah. So day 1 finishes, and I go tell my girlfriend, it was amazing. And I'm talking to her for about an hour and a half that night about how great he was. Go back the next day in the morning. He's got some guest speakers on. They're talking about how great he is. He comes on, he teaches some more. We all go to lunch. We go to lunch together. We share some stuff. And then it's the afternoon of day 2. Now, if you know anything about events, the afternoon of day 2 is pitch, what's known as pitch or invitation. So I know he's going to make an offer. So he gets up there and he starts talking about his what he's creating next. It's a brand new program after COVID, never been opened before. It's going to be a mastermind. That's it, really just a mastermind. We're going to meet once a month in LA, live, in person. If you can't meet live, you can get it on Zoom. He's got cool stuff to give us every time, books and products that he uses and all kinds of stuff. And then an hour or an hour and a half call every in between, like in the 2 weeks in between, right? That's it. That's all it was. $10,000. I could not throw my credit card at him fast enough. Like I signed up immediately. I was like, yes, this is for me. 10K, and I barely knew the guy. Or did I? If you look back at the way that I described that, you can see all 7-4-11 occurring well within those realms. How many different locations did I see him? So I saw him on the website. I saw his website. I saw the emails that came in. I went to the hotel. I went and I was looking at the lobby. Then we went in. We had other people talking about him, giving reference for him. That's actually called another location if somebody else is referring you to him or talking about how great he is. Then we had him teaching. That's time, right? So now we're building the 7 hours of time with him, the 7 hours of research, the different touches, the different emails that came back and forth, the different ways he connected with us. In the morning, he had books on the chair, so we had physical things to hold, new journals, new all kinds of cool stuff. And so it was all these different connection points. The 7-4-11 principle is really powerful. But if you felt overwhelmed by that, please don't. Please know that that can happen very, very quickly. You just need to be able to connect with people. You just need to be able to connect with them. And it doesn't even have to be you. A great way to do that is to be able to record podcasts, to get on stages and have people know you before you're needed, right? If you have a podcast out there and then you go to an event and people are like, oh, I heard you on so and so's podcast, that's 2 different touches, 2 different locations. So you can combine those in a variety of different ways. Maybe they talked to you for 15 minutes, but maybe they heard you for 30 minutes on the podcast. An amazing opportunity there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I did promise you that if you stayed to the very end, I would give you a gift. So I hope you've gotten value out of this. If you got value out of it, please put value in the chat or in the comments if you're listening. We would love for you to, I would love to know that you got value out of this talk. So we're going to give you 2 really cool things. One is you're going to get this as a free gift. It is my 10 expert secrets to engage your virtual audience. When you click on that, you will see that these are 10 extremely powerful ways to connect deeply with your audience. So they have those different touches, they have those different experiences, they have the time with you, they have the opportunity to learn more about you, and they can grow and be engaged with you. So you want your audience engaged because when they are engaged, they are more likely to take you up on your offer at the end of your talk. So that's 10 ways to engage your virtual audience. And I said that I had a $2,500 value of a program. We're going to give it to you on this show for $49. $49 only. It is an amazing Ready to Rise speaker kit. If you're someone, if someone handed you a mic today, would you be ready? Maybe, maybe not. This kit gives you clarity and confidence and gets you out of overwhelm. It's a self-guided, self-paced opportunity where it will give you 90 days of activities that you can do. It will give you an opportunity to be able to choose your own adventure in it. You can actually interact with me directly in it on video. So definitely check it out. It's just 49 bucks. I hope you'll take me up on that offer. It is my opportunity to connect with you in a deeper way. I hope you get value out of this and out of all of the different pieces that I have for you today. I'm Kimberly Crow. It's been a pleasure to be on this amazing summit with you. And that's all I have for you today, but I hope you'll connect with me, grab the gifts, and I'll see you next time. I'm Kimberly Crow. Cheers.